I'm recording this in the hope that anyone can remember. Even as I record, I can feel the details slipping away from me. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Last night, the world ended, and I'm the only one who remembers. It all started with the clouds. I live in California, although I won't say which city for my safety. Despite popular belief, it's not all sun and models in bikinis. It was cloudy as hell, so instead of being productive with my life, I was lounging around my living room watching bad daytime TV. I had lost my job the week before for issues involving my mental health. I hadn't had the energy to begin job searching yet. During one of my many generic game show reruns, my German Shepherd, Maggie, started going crazy. She was howling and scratching at the window. "Maggie, quiet down over there," I yelled. I didn't want to get up from the couch to close the window. But after a minute or two of her howling, I peeled myself off the couch and went to the window to see what the hell she was barking at. That's when I saw it. All the gray clouds outside were turning black. Not just storm black, but a pure black that I've never seen before. The small amount of sun leaking through was quickly snuffed out as the sky turned completely black. The TV began looping the same few words. "This is your fault." A line from some argument between two characters. The sound was driving me crazy. Shit, I cursed to myself as I mapped a plan through the mess of trash and dirty dishes. The only light was the dim TV. When I eventually got to the light switch, I cut the television off. I was already startled by the sudden blackness, even more so when I noticed that the lights overhead barely cut into the pitch black outside. As a sufferer of anxiety all my life, I began to panic, and the room became silent. Maggie's howls had stopped, and I turned just in time to see her turn tail and run into the bedroom. Cautiously, I tiptoed to the window and glanced out at the darkness outside. That's when I noticed from the dim light that the street lamps were releasing, that all of my neighbors were leaving their houses and filling the streets as they peered at the sky. I considered going down from my apartment to join them. But then, the screaming began. The screams were blood-curdling, so traumatizing that I'll never forget them. The wails of pain were almost inhumane. It sounded as if it was coming from the street. Dread soaked through my bones. My neighbor, Miss Pommel, was writhing in the streets below. I couldn't tell what was causing her to scream. I was too far away to tell for certain, but it seemed like blood was pouring from her face. The puddle of blood quickly spread, and whomever was near her who was touched by her blood, whether standing in the large puddle or attempting to assist her, soon began screaming as well. I panicked and boarded up all my windows with some nails from my toolbox and ripped boards from the floor of the guest room. No one was going to use them anytime soon. The only window I left open was the one facing the street, so I would know when this crazy shit was over, if it would ever be. A panic attack began building itself in my chest, causing me to hyperventilate and blindly search for my pills. As I dug through my purse, I cut myself on something sharp in my back. I ripped my arm out and examined my hand. My palm was marked with a nasty gash and there was already dripping blood down my arm. Carefully, I glanced inside and noticed that my pocket knife, which I kept for self-defense, had somehow come out of its case. I closed my knife in the case and set it on the side table nearby. When I went into the bathroom to retrieve my first aid kit, I noticed my pills balanced on the edge of the sink. I cleansed my hand with alcohol and cried like a bitch while doing it. It didn't seem like it needed stitches, so I wrapped it up in gauze and bandages. The pills I take are a special type of anxiety medication, one that calmed my panic attacks down and prevented my aftershocks. I took one and wrapped myself up in my weighted blanket. Outside, the screams seemed to climax and just stop. I quickly bounced off the floor and looked outside once more. Everyone outside seemed to be facing my window. The street was lined with blood, yet everyone was silent. It seemed the infection the blood was causing was over. but my neighbors were different. That's when I noticed that they were ever so slowly approaching my apartment building. "What the fuck?" I mumbled, before tearing through my apartment for more nails and boards. I boarded up my doors, taking extra care with the door facing the walkway outside. I armed myself with my baseball bat I had brought with me from home as protection against the elusive dangers of California. Maggie was still curled up under my bed, where she had sought safety. I left her there and stood in my hallway, watching the front door for signs of anyone trying to enter. I wanted to call my mom or my therapist. Only then did the thought of my family strike me. My parents lived in my hometown, a small town in Idaho. I wondered how far this ordeal went. Was it just our town, the state, or maybe even the whole world? This idea rolled my stomach, and I ran to the bathroom to vomit up the cheap noodles I had for lunch that afternoon. I dropped the bat beside me and kept heaving. My knees gave out and I collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Could I be one of the few uninfected people left? Was my family even alive? My mental state left me curled up on the ground, feeling numb even as my body was shaken by sobs. After what seemed like hours, I crept into the hall and sat against the wall, still in sight of the door. During the whole ordeal, my apartment had been silent, but I noticed a quiet, scraping sound. A sound that sent chills down my spine. It was the sound of my doorknob rattling. I awoke the next day tucked into my bed with Maggie by my side. I lay in bed for a while, recalling the details of before. I didn't remember ever going to bed or putting the baseball up. Maybe it was a dream. What do you think, Max? She looked at me, then settled back into bed. I chuckled and pushed myself up. A sharp pain forced itself up my arm, and I remembered the wound. I looked at my palm. It was still wrapped in bandages, which were now soaked in blood. So, it wasn't a dream. Dread settled once more in my chest as I tiptoed to my bedroom door and peeked my head out into the hallway. The sun was pouring through the uncovered windows. There were no boards on the windows or doors. The only reminder of last night's events was the cut on my hand and my memory of it. I tried to shake off the memory, but it held tight and wrapped itself around my thoughts. Maggie was whining at the door, signaling that she wanted out. I did not want to open that door, but I couldn't keep her inside. My curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed her leash and we walked out the door. All the neighboring apartments were closed, so I didn't bother checking in on anyone. We made our way to the street outside. It seemed clear of blood and my changed neighbors. Not a single clue as to what happened last night. "Oh, hello there, Sarah. Oh, and hello, Maggie Pie." I jumped at the sudden voice and spun around to see Miss Pummel, the one who was convulsing and bleeding in the street just last night, tending to her garden. The thought of her scream sent goosebumps to creep up on my arms. Hello, Miss Pummel. How are you?" I managed to spit out. My hands were sweating, making my grip on Maggie's leash slick. "Just fine, love. And you?" Well, my voice wobbled before stabilizing. "I'm pretty shaken up from last night." I hoped to get some reaction, a tell that she remembered anything. "Why? What happened last night?" She smiled sweetly at me. She seemed genuinely confused, so I made up a lousy excuse I can't even remember and jogged down the road. I called my mom, my friends, everyone I could think of and asked about last night. No one remembered the terrifying events last night held. No one except me. So I came here, the ever-helpful internet, in an attempt to find anyone else like me. Do you remember the world ending last night? Thanks to everyone that supported my last post and helped me in my search for any other survivors. And for the people that were concerned for my well-being, no, I did not overdose. I lost a friend to and would never dream of inflicting that kind of pain on anyone I love. Last night, somebody from a throwaway account messaged me. They said they remembered. Throwaway 5483619. I saw your post. I know what you're talking about. I remember every second of it. Me. Wait, really? I can't tell you how much of a relief that is to hear. What's your name? Throwaway 548-3619. Meet me at Nick's Cafe, 542. Redacted. Street. Me. Can't you tell me anything else? Throwaway 548-3619. It's not safe. Meet me there at 11 a.m. I'll be in the back booth. After that cryptic message, they locked off. Despite my brain warning me against it, I went to the cafe. I just couldn't turn down the opportunity to meet someone else that knew. The cafe wasn't one that I had heard of before, although that doesn't mean much in California. The streets are swarmed with obscure coffee shops. This one stood out from the others, however. A sign read, Nick's Cafe, Coffee Shop and Lounge. I wasn't sure what type of people came here to sit around and drink lattes, but it wasn't anyone I messed around with. The walls were a dark brown brick, the color of dirt, contrasting against the pastel and colorful shops nearby. The door was a thick wooden door with a small pane of glass at the top, so you could see in. However, I'm only 5 foot, so I had a hard time looking in. I opened the heavy door after a few seconds of struggling and entered the shop. The windows were small, barely letting any light into the musty shop. It was a dark place, as one would assume. I walked around looking for anyone in the back booth and quickly spotted a figure hunched over the table. They were dressed in a ratty black hoodie, fitting all the stereotypes for internet creep. Cautiously, I approached the table and sat opposite of them. Hi, are you the person that messaged me? I was more than a little freaked out at this abnormal situation, so I tried to stay in the safe zone. I sat close to the edge of the seat, ready to bolt if something went wrong or they tried to kidnap me. The person at the table sat up where I could get a good look at them. It was a young girl, maybe 17, dressed in all black. She had short brown hair that rested on her shoulders perfectly, and the most vivid green eyes I've ever seen. She looked like the type of girl that would have everyone's attention whenever she walked into a room. She was just an attention grabber. I later learned that her name is Emma. Yes, I was. I remember the events from the other day. I was just hanging out with my friends in my room, listening to music and talking, the usual stuff. Then it got really dark out, and the music started looping. My friends started screaming. She trailed off and shuddered. I'm sorry that happened to you. At least I was home alone. How did you remember? I asked. I knew that I remembered due to the injury on my hand. But other than that, well, I thought it was a dream. But then I saw the scratch marks on my floor and knew it was real. She stared at the table's dim surface, not seeing at all. She seemed like she was seriously traumatized. I felt for the girl. Who knows what she went through that last night. I told her my story, and we began trying to find similarities in our stories. But we only identified 2 as of this post being uploaded. Both of our houses were cleaned, spotless of any evidence, except for a tiny detail that had been overlooked. My palm, the scratches on our bedroom floor, and both of our memories show someone attempting to enter the house. Then, cutscene to the next morning. Now, why we are some of the only people to remember, we have no clue. But some people on that last post talk about vague memories of odd events or pitch black sky that night. For whatever reason, the person or thing that caused that apocalypse wanted to wipe everyone's memories of it. Emma and I seem to have been missed, or they just couldn't erase the memory. I think that our ability to remember is linked to a painful or traumatic experience that happened that day. I sliced my hand open, and I don't know what happened to Emma, but those scratches on her floor left her troubled and out of it. I wanted to question her about it, but I fear stirring up any bad memories for her. Emma's theory is that some extraterrestrial being was behind the infection and that they were test running a sickness to completely eviscerate the human population. She doesn't really elaborate past that, just that she thinks that we were the only survivors of the wipeout, and that's why we remember. The infection didn't kill everyone or work as fast as they would like, so they removed the memories of everyone affected in an attempt for a round 2. I choose not to believe any particular theory, but Emma's path does seem to make sense, however sci-fi it may seem. The world ended, then something reset it, and we're the only ones who remember. I'm hoping that maybe someone else remembers what happened, someone my last post didn't reach, and that they see this one. I don't want Emma and I to be alone in this. Emma just told me that she found a website on the dark web for people that remember the, as the website said, bloody deaths that took place on June 17th. She wants to try to message the people at the website. But I'm not so sure that that's a good idea. I have to post this quickly. I don't have much time. They're coming for me, and I can't hold them off for long. But let me go back to where we were last. When I left off, Emma had asked me if she should message the people running the sketchy website. I told her that it wouldn't be a good idea. Someone might learn about our real identities. But she's just a kid, and predictably, she messaged them later that night. It was a bad idea. We came back to my house to hide out and search for others. She was sitting in the living room watching the news for any sign. I told her to help herself to anything in the house as I went to take a shower. When I was drying myself off, I noticed the silence in the apartment. I thought maybe Emma had gone to bed or something to that degree. Then I heard the crash. My paranoia from the past week swept over me, and I raced out of the bedroom and down the hall to where I left Emma. The sight I saw startled me. There was glass scattered across the floor, and the entire room was in disarray. The coffee table was overturned, spilling cold tea from earlier all over the rug, and a man was pulling Emma out of the window. My first thought was that he was a burglar, but then I noticed how unnaturally tall he was. The lights seemed to fade to black around his frame. He had a giant gloved hand covering her mouth, and at an inhuman speed, he leapt off the balcony to the dark ground below. I raced to the shattered window, ignoring the sharp pane of glass piercing my foot. I watched helplessly as the masked man threw Emma in the trunk of a black car before getting in the passenger seat and speeding away. Stunned, I plopped onto the couch and looked around. I should get some pictures of the incident for insurance. I don't know who could have taken Emma, but I think I know why. As I took pictures of the damage, I thought about the people who knew that we remembered. My friends and family knew, but none of them knew about Emma. But if she had messaged the people on the website, they could have traced the laptop or done some other computer geek thing I couldn't understand. I searched through the website, looking for some clue to what happened or who took her. The only thing I found was a chat room where Emma was talking to some guy. His username was just a jumble of letters and numbers. She told the other user about our situation and that she was hiding with me at home. It was a stupid decision on her part, but she would have done it even if I told her not to. The user gave no hints that he knew where she was, so he must have been keeping tabs on us even before we met up. I decided that the best idea would be to ditch the laptop or destroy it. I smashed it with a hammer and threw it in the dumpster out back. I also knew that I couldn't stay in my home any longer since they already knew where I was. So I loaded up the car with supplies and left with Maggie. She wouldn't be safe staying with me, so I dropped her off at my mother's house. I drove in zigzags to random places for days on end. I figured that if I didn't stay in one place, they couldn't find me. Boy, was I wrong. I've been driving for almost a week, I think. I stay in shitty one-star motels and eat only fast food. In every town I stop in, one of them will show up. They can't be human. They're too fast, and they know too much. It's almost as if they can read my mind. I think that they were hired by someone connected to all this. Maybe the person who helped us remember. Either way, I've quickly learned how to identify them, since they appear in every town that I stay in. As far as I can tell, they're the ones who took Emma, and they're toying with me. They're always dressed in black. Whether I'm eating in the parking lot of a pit stop or shopping for more supplies, they will be there. It's always, for the most part, an inconspicuous person sticking to the shadows in large crowds. They have these dark, endless eyes that can freeze you where you stand, figuratively. You won't notice them the first few times you see them, but then they show up everywhere. They'll trail you around for days. The first time I saw them was in my hometown, where this all began. I didn't put it together until later, but a man was following Emma and I. He was pale, almost sickly looking. He was built like a house, however, and he was almost a few feet away. He was at the cafe in town. I even saw him standing outside my apartment building. When Emma was taken from me, he disappeared. Turns out, he was just replaced by a dark-skinned woman with the same evil eyes. I've taken to naming them, giving them each a number. I'm currently on number 27. I'm not sure if I've been able to ditch them, or if they've been pulled away by whoever controls them. I'm not sure, but there's one thing I do know. They've been getting closer. The more I look for Emma, the more I run like the coward I am, the closer they get to me. Number 27, a tall, skinny man that looks more like a beanstalk than a human. He's gotten a lot closer than any of them have ever done. He's standing outside of my motel room right now, and he's right by the door. I can see his shadow through the window from the small hiding place I'm currently in, recording this. I would make a run for it, but he's standing by the only exit, and I have no chance of making it to my car. I have to wait him out, see if he'll leave on his own. Maybe when number 28 replaces him. He's peering through the window right now, and I think he can see me. So much has happened in the past few days. I feel like I can barely keep up with updating. But here we are. 27 tried to force his way into my motel room, throwing himself against the flimsy wooden door. It seemed to warp under his weight. The door would be down quickly. I scrambled from under the sink and raced for the phone. I quickly dialed 911 before almost dropping it, my hands shaking like crazy.
911, what's your emergency?
A woman with a slight southern accent answered. There's a man outside my room, and he's trying to get in. Please, hurry! He threw himself at the door again, a screw flying across the room.
Ma'am, I've traced the call, and there's a unit nearby. He should be there any second. Please stay on the line.
Her voice turned serious. Yes, ma'am. The door just broke. I yell as the door separates from the frame, crashing to the ground a few feet away. The phone slips from my hand and hits the carpet. Number 27 stepped into the small room, his shadow looming over me like a scene from a horror movie. His eyes glued me in place, curled up on the floor. A siren echoes faintly into the room, and as I peek out the door, the lights of the police vehicle can't be seen yet. I back away from him, looking for an alternate escape route. The only other exit is the small window in the bathroom. I have to try. I spring off the floor and run to the bathroom less than 10 feet away. I'm not even halfway there when he tackles me to the ground. I thrash and try to free myself from his Superman strength, but he quickly grabs a fistful of my hair and hauls me up beside him. A knife seems to slip from the shadows into his hand as he holds it to my throat. You're going to be quiet and come with me. They want you alive, but I won't hesitate to kill you. His voice grates across me, like nails on a chalkboard. My voice catches in my throat, and I force myself to mutter a please. I don't want to beg him for anything, but I don't really seem to have a choice. He chuckles, a raspy, ugly sound. His fist twists into my hair, pulling painfully at the roots. We exit the room and slowly making our way down the motel sidewalk until we reach a black SUV. There's no way to identify it. No license plates, bumper stickers, nothing. He pulls the wickedly sharp blade away from my neck, and I release a small breath of relief. I think about fighting, about running, but after a mental check of my injuries, 27 would likely kill me before I could get 10 feet away. The chances of me escaping seem slim to none. He tapes my mouth shut with duct tape, and zip ties my wrists and ankles together. The door slides open, and he throws me in. I land ungracefully on the floor of the SUV in an awkward angle between the front seat and the back seats. 27 gets into the passenger seat and speaks an order to the driver in a language that I've never heard in my life. It's dark in the vehicle, and my eyes slowly adjust. My surroundings seem to fade in slowly, and I try to get a good look at the driver, to no avail. His face is covered by a black ski mask, his features a mystery to me. The vehicle starts moving, and I wiggle myself up to a more comfortable position. The seriousness of my situation begins to sink in through my mental wall, and my eyes threaten to spill over. But I won't let them see me break. Not now, and not ever. I'm going to break out of their prison, or wherever they're sending me. I'm going to find Emma, and we're going to put a stop to this. After what seemed like hours, but what is likely just minutes, 27 opens the glove compartment and removes a box. The box contains a syringe, which holds a light blue liquid. He twists in his seat to face me. I wait for him to speak, but he never does. He yanks me closer by my bound wrists and brings the syringe to my arm. My eyes widen, and I begin struggling. I fight and kick at him, landing one good kick to the jaw. His eyes spark with an inhuman anger. They seem to turn a deep red, and I remember just how inhuman my jailer is. He backhands me, the momentum of his hit making me fall forwards. Watch how you treat me, bitch. I decide your fate, whether you make it to our destination or you wind up dead in a ditch. He forces the needle into my arm, none too gently, and injects the mysterious liquid. At first, I feel nothing. Then my vision begins to fade, and I fall into unconsciousness. I come to in a different place, cold and wet. I think the past event is a dream, until I feel the chains around my wrists and the memories come flooding back to me. I'm in a small cell. I can touch both of the cell walls if I stretch my arms out. The bricks are a dark gray, darkened further with grime and other unspeakable stains. The chains I'm locked in are short, only about a foot long. My movements are limited. Not that I'll be moving much, save my escape. The door to my cell consists of thick metal bars, coated with the same grime. I can't see past the bars, just blackness. Footsteps echo as they get closer. I crane my neck to see any sign of life, and I can't see any source of the sound. But then, she steps into view. Hello, Sarah. What a coincidence to see you here, Emma says. She seems like a completely different person than when I first met her. She stands higher, with an air of authority and power around her. She seems more like a queen than a teenage girl. I try to force myself out of my shock. I try to speak, but nothing comes out. I know, you're shocked. You don't understand what's going on. I get it. That's why I'm here, to catch you up. She even sounds different, colder. She speaks with fake understanding. Emma? I thought you were taken. The question sounds stupid as soon as I say it. A tiny smile shows on her face. No, I wasn't kidnapped, and I wasn't a survivor. Her heeled boots set out waves of echoing sound as she slowly walks from one side of the cell to the other, over and over again. See, Sarah, we've had our eye on you for a long time. Years, actually. Because you're different. We've had experiments like last month's going on for decades, and there's always certain people that remember. We gather them up, one way or another, and we study them. Their DNA, nobody knew why they were immune to our memory wiping. Until recently. One of our scientists found a gene in every one of the test subjects, a gene that makes you immune to our special technology. And I have this gene? My wrists wiggle in the chains, quietly looking for the keyhole. I adjust my foot, searching for the content of my shoe. Thankfully, they didn't remove my shoes. Yes, but you're different than the other mutants. You've outlasted them all. You seem to have been shielded from us, for a while at least. We almost thought our calculations were wrong, that you weren't one of them. Then you made that post on that dreadful website." She tisked at me. "That was what gave you away. And to think how easily you fell for my charade, immediately trusting in me like that. That was stupid of you. I will admit, I did feel something for you. But it's been erased. Did you know only 5 in every 2 million people have this gene, and you happen to be one of them? The last, actually. The rest have been eliminated. The reason we need you all is so we can fix you. Nobody can know about our experiments on this world." She stops just a few inches away from me. "You speak about Earth like you aren't from it." I try to sound like I fully understand, but all the information is swirling around my head, making it hard to think. I slowly pull my foot closer and manage to get the bobby pin out from my shoe and into my hand. I set about picking the lock on the chains and keeping Emma distracted. We're not. In fact, all of our staff here comes from a different planet. Or rather, moon. We come from Charon, one of Pluto's 5 moons. We've been there for centuries, watching Earth grow and helping mold it into what it needs to be. Our resources on Charon are running out, our crops dying, the rivers drying up. Charon is being killed by our presence, so we're molding your Earth into our new home. Good luck with that. Earth is going to be dead soon as well. I spit at her. Not with our powers, our technology. We can heal the Earth, make her better than she's ever been. She looks into the distance thoughtfully. And what makes you think that we'll bend to new rulers? I feel my chains loosen as they unlock and grasp them tightly to stop them from hitting the floor. Finally, the question I was waiting for. We've been honing our experiments, widening our zones. Once we weed out the mutants, such as yourself, we can effectively make the human race extinct in a matter of hours. Her face is alight with glee and hunger. Cold dread weighs down my body. She's planning to kill me, and I can't even defend myself in this stupid cell. As if she had read my mind, she slides back into her calm shield of observation. "No, Sarah, I'm not going to kill you. Not today. I want you to sit in here and think about your life, all of your mistakes, everyone you've ever wronged. Make peace with your decisions in this life, and may you make better in your next." She marches away and back down the hall. I ignored her words, blocking out the memories and doubts her words stirred in my head. I have to focus on my escape from this cell, from her. I wait until I'm certain that nobody is nearby, and I quietly lower the chains. I tiptoe to the cell door, and the lock quickly gives out. To think an alien corporation wanting to take over the world and not even putting electronic locks on the cell doors. Pathetic. The cell door thankfully doesn't creak as I open it. Peeking my head out, I look down the hall. I can see a torch and a door with no guard. My sneakers allow me to sneak down the hall undetected. When I reach the door, I creak it open and look out at the world beyond. I can see 3 guards, similar to number 27. They have the same haunting eyes and gruesome height. They slack off at their job, one even having the audacity to sleep at his post. But one, the guard by the exit, is bigger than the rest, and he's fully alert. How am I supposed to get past them? It's impossible. No matter how I approach, they'll see me and gun me down. So I decide to do what anyone from Earth would do. I do something stupid and reckless. I throw the door open and run at the guards. They snap up as the door behind me smacks against the wall and stare at the sight of a tiny human girl charging at them. The smart ones start shooting, and the others follow suit. I dodge their bullets as best I can, but I feel one graze my arm. I fight through the pain and continue running. One of the guards stands directly in front of the door, but I slide right under his legs and out into the bright world. The sun blinds me, and that's how I miss Emma shooting me in the gut. I stop running, but my momentum throws me forward, and I roll in the gravel. She walks over to me and kneels over my body. Pity you try to run, Sarah. I had such a good death planned for you. Clean and neat. Now you'll die a death in blood-soaked dirt, mourned by none. Go fuck yourself. I bite through the pain, and my vision flickers a little. If I wasn't bleeding to death from her gun, I would think that was hurt on her face. Well, if we're being rude, I may as well let you bleed alone in the hot sun. Food for the animals. May the gods have mercy on you. She kicks me in the gut, and I hold back a scream of pain. She walks away, instructing the guards to leave me alone. I feel the weakness in my bones, and I know I won't have long if I don't get help. I try to stand, but I collapse back to the ground. I can see down the driveway, and if I'm right, I may find my salvation. It takes me hours, and I feel my body growing weaker each time I drag myself across the ground. But eventually, I find the key to my survival. A highway. I pull myself off of the dirt path and onto the burning asphalt. The sun lays hot in the sky, and a scavenger bird flies in circles in the air, waiting to swoop at me. My eyelids droop, and I know I can't go any further. I fear that my death will be on this highway, left to wild animals to pick off my remains. That's when I hear the car. A blue car stops a few feet away from me, and I see a middle-aged woman with black hair leap out. Ma'am, are you okay? Do I need to take you to the hospital? She comes closer, and I manage to shake my head yes. Her eyes find the gaping hole, and they widen with fear. Oh my god, you were shot. Here, I'll take you to a hospital. Come with me. The woman's name was Lee Fahy, and she saved my life. Somehow, I didn't die that day. We managed to get there in time for the doctors to help me. 2 days ago, Sarah died on the operating table. I woke up a new woman, Nina. Emma and her corporation think I'm dead, and I want to keep it that way. I'm recording this as I'm about to leave my hospital room. I'm going to build an army of people, and we're going to take back our planet. So, do any of you remember the world ending?